Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 16th of the subject Modern Indian Political Thought. Let's see the topics to be covered. Introduction, Indian response to British rule, Muslim communal separatism, revivalist nationalist politics, some aspects of Hindu-Muslim problems. Now, the introduction, in this present unit, you'll mainly study about the linkages between religion and politics in India, that how religion and how politics is linked together. These linkages are not a recent phenomenon but go back in time. These linkages are not the thing of today, but they actually go back in time. They are actually history when they started, how they are linked together, the religion as well as politics. The focus here is on the period from the advent of British colonialism and onwards. So when the Britishers came over here and when their colonialism started, and from there on the focus is on that. Indian response to British rule. British colonial rule and the impact of Western culture and civilization brought forward several categories of response among educated and concerned Indians. These responses were in evidence from 1860 onwards, when British policy in India began to undergo drastic changes. Suspicion, repression, systematic exploitation of existing social distance among communities to foster divisive tendencies for political ends, and strict surveillance replaced pre-1858 laxity in these matters. So when Britishers came here and when they started establishing their institutions, they saw that there was suspicion, there was no unity among the Indians themselves. So they started exploiting themselves and they started exploiting the social distance to foster divide and rule policy and to more disunify them and to create more social distance among them, so that they are not united, they are not in unity with each other. So the British colonial rule and the Western culture as well as civilization brought several categories of response among the educated Indians, because the educated Indians, they saw the Britishers and the education system as the most developed way of handling things, and also the concerned Indians, they were getting education and they were considered the higher class of the strata. Indian response, various responses. These responses may be stated as follows: modernization of politics and social reforms on the basis of rational principles of the West and through a process of gradual adaptation, loyalist, peaceful and constitutionalist in approach. So the politics and social reform were based on the rational principles, and they were based on the rational principles of the West, which required gradual adjustment to these changes. They were based upon the social reforms were based upon being loyal, being peaceful and being constitutionalist in approach. Loyalist, constitutionalist in political approach, mobilization based on appeal to Muslim religion and protection of Muslim interests. So it was also based upon protection of Muslim interests and protection of Muslim ideologies and their religious sentiments and other interests. A political outlook in which preference for Western principles of government was combined with innovative, peaceful and active methods of protest. There were active methods of protest also. Innovative, peaceful and active methods of protest were there, and that was also combined with the preference for Western principles, that which was based upon freedom, equality, peace, being loyal, and also there was, on the other hand, there was peaceful and active methods of protest against the British rule as well. Indian response as reflected in organizations and movements. These trends found early expression in organizations and movements associated with Brahmo Samaj, Pratna Samaj, Arya Samaj, the Aligarh College and Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, the Ramakrishna Mission and the Theosophical Society. So all these trends were found in these organizations which were associated with various religious reformers. Moderates response. As long as liberal moderate leaders were in charge of the Congress from 1885 to 1906, the effective emphasis was on Western liberal principles of reason, rights, loyalty, freedom from prejudice and discrimination. So moderates, they focused on gradual change and peaceful change, and they were the leaders of the Congress. They were influenced by the emphasis of about the Western principles, which emphasized on religion, which emphasized on Western liberal principles, mainly reason, freedom, rights, loyalty, and freedom, and also giving freedom from prejudice and discrimination. So they were also influenced by this. Militant nationalists, it was a new brand of politics, active and impatient, growing out of accumulated grievances, new developments in India, as well as a sense of disgust with the existing state of affairs. So militant nationalists, they were the extremists, they were the violent people, they were the violent brand of social reformers, where they did not believe in slow, gradual or peaceful change, rather they believed in quick and bringing a change through revolution, through violent revolution. They were active, they were impatient, they wanted the change instantly, and they grew out of accumulated complaints, out of resentment, and also with the disgust with the existing state of affairs, with the existing policy which the government had. They were disgusted with that, and they were frustrated with that. There was a newfound confidence among India's industrial entrepreneurs, which prompted them to demand more room for expansion. So industrial entrepreneurs also found a new confidence through which they demanded expansion of their activities and their business. Most of the militants of Bengal could be divided into strands. They were believers, a mother cult, and the other group was called Vedantists. So these were the three categories of the militants of Bengal. Muslim communal separatism. Many authors have pointed out that nationalism of the Maharashtra and Bengal school antagonized the Muslims of India and was a potent cause behind the rise of Muslim communal separatism. So many authors have pointed out that Maharashtra and Bengal nationalism, they have antagonized the Muslims of India, and it was a major cause for separating the Muslims of different states and the rise of Muslim communal separatism. Muslims demanded a separate state for them, a separate identity for them, and that was which many authors pointed out, that was only because of the nationalism of the Maharashtra and Bengal school, which promoted them to voice their opinions and to come forward and also to protect their caste. So that was a potent cause of the rise of Muslim communal separatism from other states of the country as well. It should be pointed out here that neither of these two schools of aggressive, popular and uncompromisingly anti-colonial nationalism was by intent directly against the Muslim interest or meant to hurt their sentiments. It was not to hurt their sentiments, it was the schools which taught aggressive or uncompromisingly to counter the anti-colonial nationalism. Basically, it was not meant to hurt any religion sentiments or to hurt directly the Muslims' interests. It was not meant to that. As a matter of fact, in the early stages of militant nationalism in Bengal, Muslims could be found in the ranks of the militants, though not in large numbers. Muslims, though that they were in minority, but they were found in the ranks of the militants, through which they demanded a communal separatism, a separate state and a separate identity for them. Main trends of Muslim political thinking. If we analyze Muslim political thinking of the first 2 decades of the 20th century, it will be seen that the main trends in their thinking during this period were the following: that the Congress does not adequately represent all the nationalities and races of India. This is what Muslims thought about Congress, that it does not represent all the religions and nationalities, that the Muslims are backward educationally and in economic standing and constitute a minority compared to the Hindus. And also they believed, if we analyze the Muslim political thinking, it will be seen that this was a major trend, that Muslims are backward, educationally considered or economically considered, and they are also the minorities. So they were not considered a strong caste or a strong group. That the Muslims are different from the Hindus in their culture and moral code, social organization, religion, and therefore constitute a separate identity. They have a separate identity. They cannot be merged with the mainstream of the Hindus, and they have a separate culture, moral code, social organization, their outlook, everything is separate. This is what was thought about them. Religious imagery and symbolism. The frequent recourse to religious imagery and symbolism to explain social and economic conditions of people or to bring into focus political ideas and goals could come about as a result of the high degree of religious orientation of a person or a community, or more deliberately to get quick political results by motivating people to action on the basis of emotive favor, a sense of mission, and allegiance to a cause. So it was basically the religious imagery and symbolism that was basically meant to bring in more focus to political ideas and goals, and also to give a high degree of religious cause, and to bring in more political results, quick political results, by motivating people to take action. And motivation was done on the basis of emotions, emotive arousal, and on the basis of sense of mission and being allegiance to a particular cause. So religious imagery and symbolism was used where a lot of situations were given to them and they were told to react. To individuals or communities having such orientation, no other frame of reference except that which is based on one's religion is valid for understanding and evaluation of larger reality. So what could be done to evaluate a larger reality, or to have a basic understanding to individuals or communities having such, that is based on one's religion, that is based on one's understanding, to evaluate a larger community or a reality that is based upon, to analyze a particular outlook or a religion, and to individuals or communities having such orientation to be analyzed in a proper manner. Revivalist in nationalist politics, Dayanand Saraswati, a monotheist Hindu reformer of the 19th century, exercised considerable influence as a revivalist nationalist. Dayanand Saraswati was one of the first to assert that foreign rule constitutes an aggression on India's culture, which is defined by Vedic religion and social organization of the Hindus. So, this is what he said, this is what Dayanand Saraswati said, that foreign rule is a basically aggression on India's culture. It is not promoting India's culture, which is defined by social organization and Vedic religion and other components defining it. And Dayanand Saraswati also said that there has to be a proper culture, there has to be India has to be self-dependent. They cannot depend on the foreign rule, and they have to assert themselves and also to make certain changes. And that British rule was destroying the Indian culture and the organization. Swami Vivekananda, Vedantist and an extraordinary monk of the late 19th century India, wrote and talked extensively on the idea of spiritual freedom, which according to him is tied up with religious norms. So Vivekananda said that spiritual freedom, when person is given freedom in terms of choosing that where to go, where is the place of worship, and that is tied up with religious norms, the rituals and the practices which are followed in a particular religion, that is also linked with that. V.D. Savarkar, like Dayanand, Savarkar also stressed the role of race, religion and nationhood, but Savarkar's formulation was different and challenging. For him, a people of different religions sharing a feeling of belonging to a common territory can equally share common racial and religious ethos. People belonging from different religions, different castes, different cultures, they have to have this feeling, they should have this feeling of belonging to a common territory, of a common country, where they can share their common religious and racial ethos and understanding, and where they can be together. Being from different cultures, they can also be together, having a sense of belonging to a common territory. This he called Hindutva, which formed the basis of India's nationhood. In the makeup of Hindutva, Hindu culture has a greater role to play than religiosity, while Savarkar's conceptualization permits a composite nationhood in India. So Hindutva is formed by the Hindu organization, by the Hindu people, and which is also comprises of cultures, religions, and also castes of different religions and communities. And that is free from discrimination and prejudice, and that comprises also the idea of nationhood. Some aspects of Hindu-Muslim problems. From this brief resume of three thinkers from whose ideas Hindu revivalist nationalism drew sustenance at different times, it becomes clear that one aspect of the Hindu-Muslim problem was the language of communication. So there was lack of proper communication between these two communities, and that is why things or other people were not able to evaluate the reality. A second aspect of the same problem has been obliquely referred to by Jawaharlal Nehru in his autobiography. Nehru says that the petty bourgeois leadership of the Congress sought those remedies that suited its interests and outlooks. Nehru said that the leadership which was of the Congress, the bourgeois, the petty bourgeois leadership of the Congress, they were only giving solutions and remedies which suited their interests and their outlooks rather than the people. Another fact of the Hindu-Muslim problem comes into focus when we consider the developments from 1920 onwards. So when the developments from 1920 onwards are covered, there more elements of Hindu-Muslim problems comes in the picture. That was all in the session we have for you. It was basically concerning of three social reformers. They gave their views and also about the whole concept of the national movement as well as the Britishers. These are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Question number 1. What were the main features of Indian response to British colonialism? Question number 2. Briefly discuss the various aspects of the Hindu-Muslim problems. Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.